That's on my actual face. Let me put it on my ear instead. I can't hear through my cheek, no matter how badly I want to. Oh, welcome in, everybody. I'm full. I'm very full. If you hear a bunch of bemoans and begroans throughout the evening, no, you didn't. My hair is also burning me up and turning me into a bad person, so I need to get it off my neck. Thank you. I straightened it for the first time, like, probably in over a year, because I was just, I don't know. I was bored and wanted to, and it took over an hour, and my hair is mad at me now. It feels like hay, and it's a little dry, a little parched, a little thirsty, but thank you all. It's easier to manage when it's straight. It does have its own nervous system and zip code, so I kind of have to give it what it wants, you know? But at any rate, welcome in, everybody. Lurkers, listeners now and later. I hope you're having a beautiful time zone wherever thou may art. I art full of a buffalo chicken wrap and a chopped salad. Oh, we ate like 2.5 hours ago, and it feels like I just put my plate down. Like, Pidge had some, huh?
To be fair, we had just started eating too.
Okay, yeah. To be fair, it's been more like 2 hours, but still. Yeah, Pidge had some sliders. He's not using the lavalier mic tonight. On the playback, I noticed that when the lavalier mic was turned off, it was making this ungodly, like, buzzy noise. And also, we just need to work out, like, the timing and stuff. And, you know, the spoons be lacking lately. So, if I'm a little snappy, it's not at any of y'all. It's at, you know, the universe and the inhabitants therein.
One does not simply choose to be a potato. You are indoctrinated, like a religion. But once you go potato, there is no return.
Axamoretto, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate you. I do have followers only chat on, but I'm going to go ahead. I have it on like you had to have chatted or been following for a day. I'm going to change that to like 10 minutes, and we'll see how that goes. Did followers off for a little while. Not fucking worth it. Not worth it. Not worth it. Because every time I did, I would get death threats or my partner would be body shamed. So we're not doing that. We're not doing that. At any rate, whether you're watching or listening, I'm glad you're here. And, yeah, dude, it's been a hard week. I deleted, well, you know, I erased last stream on the playback for multiple reasons. Because first of all, it was in 2 parts and I hate that shit. I hate that shit. Plus I was a mess. I am a mess. Plus I said things on there that were similar to like what I was saying on Twitter before I had more information. And things have since changed, so out of respect for someone who I referred to in that stream, I'm not going to have that online anymore. So, don't know why the blurps aren't working. I tried it. I have changed nothing about it, so save your smiley fries tonight, y'all. There's nothing I can do on my end, like truly and sincerely. I have changed absolutely nothing. And Blurp will show up when she shows up. I know, right? Like literally, he's just existing in the background, and people come in crooked into our living room and expect to stay. That's precious. That's super adorbs. But first and foremost, I do want to talk about what I need to own up to. I have already done so like on Twitter, but because I discussed it here on stream as well, it bears repeating, and plus character limits don't exist in my living room. So, last stream I talked about this, and I took a small Twitter break for like the better part of a week. Not long enough, in my fucking opinion. I wish I had stayed gone, and I truly mean that. But while I was gone, someone tagged me under a post that was like, hey, this is disconcerting. You follow this person. Like, I was one of many names that were tagged. And it was under Dr. Devin Price's one of his tweets. He is the author of Unmasking Autism, which is a book I've covered fairly extensively, like in the earlier days of streaming and like TikTok. Like some of my very first TikToks did some readings of that. It's been a while since I've covered it. But at any rate, I wanted to take the time to like read what I was seeing, because
One does not simply choose to be a potato. You are indoctrinated like a religion. But once you go potato, there is no return.
Hannah-ween, welcome back, my darling. I'm glad you're here, friend. Thank you for being here. This is a pumping, beating heart. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So the tweet said, that AFAB identifying people are the cis men of trans people. And I read as much context as I could, because that sentence made no sense to me whatsoever. I saw that it had a very similar like to quote tweet ratio, and that usually means that there's some discourse going on of some kind, right? So I was reading responses from trans folks and non-binary folks who took that tweet in offense and stated their reasons why. And I took the time to read as much of those as I could before I wanted to say something. I felt like I would have been remiss not to say something, because I'd covered his work in the past, and I did so with a limited perspective of any sort of context that might have been surrounding that. I very much took that statement at face value, and it confused the fuck out of me. And from my perspective and my understanding of what it meant, it did on its face to me at the moment seem anti-trans, and that's how I referred to it. When I posted about it on Twitter, I said that it was baffling and anti-trans, and that I was disappointed in this confusing take. And anytime a tweet of mine starts gaining traction, I have to mute my notifications, or mute that particular tweet. My notifications have been off for over a year and a half. Otherwise, my phone battery would be absolutely cooked, and I wouldn't touch my phone ever. But a day and a half or so later, I realized that Dr. Price had responded. And I was getting, some heat off of that, and I took the time to absorb it. There were a lot of people. When I say heat, I don't even really mean heat. It was people were calling me the fuck in about it to give me more context, to break down what they meant. And I'm still absorbing all of that, and I'm still learning what he meant and what they mean. But it was put to me in such a way that made a lot more sense in context. That, I am a cis woman. I was assigned female at birth. I don't identify as AFAB. Like, I don't refer to myself as AFAB, And when Dr. Price said AFAB identifying, he meant people who describe themselves as AFAB, people who use that to say that a business is AFAB owned, or this is an AFAB bathroom, or, there are so many tweets about it. If you want to go, you can search my Twitter. I made a handful of posts about this, acknowledging that I did take the original tweet down out of respect for Dr. Price, because I used really inflammatory language that I shouldn't have. And as a cis person, even though I am a very strong, like, outspoken, unapologetic, go fuck yourself, human rights are non-negotiable ally, I shouldn't have wedged myself and inserted myself into that conversation. I really shouldn't have said anything at all. I should have just done what I originally was going to do, which was just unfollow Dr. Price and keep an eye on this sort of discourse, because it was confusing to me and I did want to learn more about it. But I did what I did and I regret making that post. And so I took the time to write out a more thorough apology and like accountability post to show that like I'm not ignoring any of this. Like, I hear y'all, I hear what you're saying. You're 100% in the right. I'm 100% in the wrong for inserting myself. Now, several of my non-binary and trans friends have come to me and said, well, what Dr. Price said was problematic. What Dr. Price said was, at best, shittily worded, right? And at worst, it was transphobic. And those are the words of these people who have come to me and said this. And I'm not taking any of that lightly either. I'm learning more about trans misogyny. I'm learning more about trans misogyny affected communities and trans misogyny exempt communities. I'm learning more about what it means to be AFAB identified and how referring to yourself as that and referring to spaces as that in a way sort of morphs the gender binary to mean something else. You know what I mean? It can still be kind of exclusionary. The more I learn about this, the more I'm going to start talking about it and incorporating it into like my vernacular and my jargon to share with y'all what I've learned. But regardless of whether what Dr. Price said was anti-trans or not, I, as a cis woman, should not have inserted myself into the driver's seat of that conversation. And I recognize that I have a responsibility with the platform of my size that I have on Twitter, which is 22.6 or 7,000 followers, that I have to take that into account when I call people out, call people in, address people that come at me sideways and call me names. Like, I have to take my following into account, because it came about really, really fast. A year and a half ago, I had 500 followers. Literally. Like 506. So, like, I'm still learning how to navigate these waters. I'm, you know, changing the temperature of the bath water. I'm turning the knobs and tweaking it and figuring out when to speak out and when to just uplift the voices who are more affected by me, you know? So, again, to Dr. Price and to everyone who was personally like affected, offended, hurt, or upset, or all of the above by my post, I'm truly sorry. I 100% understand that it's not my responsibility to speak up for everyone at all times, and this definitely was not my conversation to do that. That being said, I hear you. If that wording is indeed transphobic and indeed hurtful to some of you, then I agree. I mean, I agree with you. That's not okay. I think that Dr. Price could have worded it in a more effective way to hammer home what he was trying to convey there. But to call him anti-trans as a cis woman, I overstepped a line there without knowing the context first. So I'm totally taking this as a learning moment on my end to do my due diligence and, you know, not everything has to be addressed, like, out loud, like, in a post. You know, I get a lot of DMs, well, not a lot, like, I get DMs every once in a while from people, or I'll be tagged in something, it's like, oof, you're following this person, don't know if you know, but they suck in this way, or they suck in that way. And, I, you know, leave. I mute them, unfollow them, block them if it's particularly egregious. So I need to learn when to pick my battles and when to shut the fuck up. So first and foremost, I just wanted to, before we get any further with anything tonight, wanted to say that out loud. And Dr. Price heard me out on that, and he made a really thoughtful post about it and, you know, mentioned me by name, and it was nice to know that, like, he heard me and that he understands that I didn't have bad intentions. And he even addressed that he speaks out of turn and lets emotion get ahead of him when talking about issues that mean a lot to him too. So, like, he knows that's where I was coming from. But like we talked about in last stream, intent does not outweigh impact when you hurt someone, right? So I feel like now that I've said it out loud on here, because I covered it on here, even though I will not be posting it online anywhere, I put it to rest. At least for me personally, you know. I appreciate everybody being here, whether you're popping in, lurking in the chat or not. Like, thank you. I'm trying to like temper how much I look at the chat and how much I don't, because it derails me very quickly. And on a day like today, where I had to scrape up the dust and the cat hairs on the floor and make myself little spoons and bring them over here. I didn't literally do that, but it's the imagery. Work with me here. In order to be here tonight, I'm just gonna, I told PJ I have to kind of frame it like I'm just sitting down and like filming a one-take TikTok. I'm looking at your messages. I always watch these back and read your messages and like pause them and rewind them and like take it all in. So like, please don't like, I don't want you to stop being in the chat just because I don't see it in real time. If I could do both simultaneously, best believe that I would. But I just appreciate y'all so much. The next thing I wanted to talk about was, well, not really talk about, just kind of share with y'all, because every time I do a writing thing, I read it on here. And sometimes we talk about it, sometimes I just read it straight through, but it had been a while since I wrote anything on Medium. I took up Medium this summer as kind of like an outlet. And when I have word vomit to pour out of my body, I do. And when I don't, I don't. So, all this shit with the genocide that's still happening, even though they called for a ceasefire 68 days, 67 days late, has really illuminated a lot for me. Has really illuminated how deeply entrenched the Western world is in global politics. And in case you're new here or you don't know, Free Palestine. I'm 1,000,000% for Palestinian liberation. I 1,000,000% stand with the Palestinian people. Over 25,000 have been murdered, martyred, executed, assassinated by the IDF and funded by the US. So I very much can understand where good-intentioned people are coming from when they're looking at this for the first time and not understanding the backlash that Israel is getting. But living in the US myself and being surrounded with and submerged in juicy propaganda at all times that I'm constantly having to deflect and unlearn and deconstruct, I can see it when it's happening in other places. And it's definitely what's happening in Israel right now, because I don't give a fuck. Nothing excuses what Israel is doing. Nothing. Nothing. And it's so easy to get caught up in the aspect of it that supposedly got the ball rolling. I believe that it's vitally important to view this from the beginning, from 1948, from Nakba, from the time that Palestinians were first being displaced, murdered, exiled out of their homeland to make room for Israel. And without that knowledge, a lot of people don't like to take the time to learn about all of that. Obviously, I'm not going to get into a big timeline. However, some of the I downloaded like fucking 25 TikToks. We're not going to get to all of them tonight, or we'd be here for fucking hours, because you know I'm a talker. But some of them have to do with what's going on in Palestine. Some of them have to do with the state and the reality of bipartisan politics in the United States. Some of them have to do with capitalism. So, you know, just shit that we're already talking about, like disability, autism. So we're going to get into those after this, after I read this. But I'm just kind of giving a setup for this piece. It was very much like just pouring out of my fingers. It's like I kind of use Medium kind of like as like a fucking journal entry to just journal down whatever concentrated form of thought I'm having. And this is what I wrote the other day. God, it's been like fucking 3 weeks by this point. What the fuck? So I'm just going to read this exactly like it is. Because like I don't subscribe to the oh well, learning about all this is so ill-timed because we have an election coming up. Fuck that. We learn it when we learn it. We see it when we see it, you know? Yes, bad luck. Please give me a follow on Medium at potatum with the number 8. I'll follow you back. Absolutely. I think I'm almost at 100 on there. I'm like at like 88 or 89. So do it if you want. Okay. Americans are in an abusive relationship with U.S. propaganda. And I'm going to take these off because the blurbs aren't working and the music is like jarring my thoughts. Plus, it was like squeezing my head and my hair. Sorry, I'm like super self-conscious. Not self-conscious in a bad way. Just like, I want to make sure that my hair looks fine. Potatum with the number 8. P-O-T-8-U-M. All right. Yes. Okay. I saw this picture and it made me want to throw up. So I used it. It's a lovely photograph by Edgar Colomba, but the message, I just don't fuck with the message. Okay. Having experienced over a decade of cumulative abuse at the hands of romantic partners, not PJ. I need to make it abundantly clear that PJ broke the mold. PJ broke the pattern. And here we are 3.5 years later. I am now all too aware of the sea of red flags that precedes and indicates abuse, neglect, and manipulation. It's one thing to accept that we're spoon-fed from school age at face value. It's one thing to accept what we're spoon-fed from school age at face value, but to harass, belittle, berate, and minimize the lived experiences of people from different cultures and walks of life is exactly what the propaganda machine wants and expects us to do. And that's both sides of the aisle. That is like the universal American thing. That's not just a Republican thing. It is largely a Republican thing, but it's not just a Republican thing. Our government has done a bang-up job of othering entire countries, financial and societal institutions, cultures, languages, and skin colors for multiple insidious, self-serving reasons. There are hundreds of examples to choose from, demonizing countries like Iraq and Afghanistan to justify bombing the shit out of them, but conveniently leaving out the parts where our government violently intervened with, funded, and manufactured terrorist organizations. It's all true. If I had the spoons to link all this shit, I would, but what am I? NBC News? I'm just a bitch with a laptop. Relax. But we all use the same internet. Look it up. I'm not pulling this stuff out of my ass, and I'm not. This isn't some tinfoil hat shit, okay? It's just the disgusting reality of the United States. All in the name of crude resources. Oil, fossil fuels. Because isn't it always? Blaming marginalized communities as individuals for their circumstances. Let me zoom in for a little bit for y'all's sake. There, that might help in case you want to read along. Blaming marginalized communities as individuals for their circumstances instead of acknowledging the socioeconomic hurdles, barriers, and traps that were set for them long before they were born. Socialism and communism are evil because evenly distributing wealth and resources to everyone across all tax brackets means that the rich fucks up top end up with less, and we can't be having that, y'all. We cannot be having that. It's unreasonable, said Bob Iger from his fucking billionaire retreat. Oh my God. It's guillotine time. Enacting laws for over a century that barred disabled people from existing in public at all. The ugly laws, of course. The last of which being repealed in 1974, 3 years before my parents got married. This isn't ancient, centuries old black and white shit. This shit is extremely recent. This shit is still happening in different ways. Claiming that systemic racism magically ended in 1964, but refusing to acknowledge the data, experiences, and truths of the black community that succinctly and chillingly prove otherwise. Disabled people must have done something to deserve their condition or illness. Poor people just don't work hard enough. It's not the system's fault that black people start 50 steps behind white people. It's their fault due to their, I don't know, genetics or something. This shit hurts my stomach to type out and say out loud. Jesus Christ. And for the record, I do not subscribe to any of this bigotry in any fucking way. Period. Mix in white Christian nationalism and you've got an oppressor. Uh-oh. That's a typo! I need to put an. And you've got an oppressor pity party of ghastly proportions. How dare you change the word Christmas to holiday in order to accommodate other religions? In the richest and freest country on earth, you're erasing Christianity? You know, the religion that we base our year on. It's been 23 years since what? What was that? So, when you get back to zero and you start going backwards from zero, all of a sudden, it's the year BC. Now, as much as I want that to stand for big cock, it doesn't. We are collectively, as a planet, counting in unison the time since Christ walked the earth. Sure, Christianity's being erased. Carol. Christianity, the religion that's responsible for the most bloodshed and global suffering since its inception. The religion that has been bastardized and cherry-picked by racist capitalists who have morphed it into some sort of keeping up with the Joneses cult. The religion that depends on a fear of fiery and torturous hell to keep its people in line. The religion that boasts a wrathful and vengeful God that will smite you for removing him from your MySpace top 8, but he loves you? Carlin really nailed that one. He did. Damn, I do miss him, even though I discovered him fucking 8 years after he died. I can't hear it, but I can see it. Nurkles23, thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate you for 3 months in a row. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. This system has tricked millions of people into voting against their best interests. It relies on fear and othering in order to emotionally appeal to people who are emotionally attached to their bigoted perspectives. Seeing marginalized people as people, don't make them laugh. I deserve everything I have because I'm a good person by default, because I was miraculously born white. But if a progressive bill gives them a chance to progress in society, make ends meet, or thrive, I will not be voting for programs to help the poor, the houseless, the drug addicts, the mentally ill, the immigrants, or any other group that makes my cushy white self uncomfortable to think about. But I can't spell that, so I put sigh. I haven't read this since I posted it, so I was fucking spicy as shit. I was mad. I was sick of seeing people completely ignoring voices of more marginalized people who are more greatly affected by shit. It doesn't behoove the overlords in charge to be held accountable, so they depend on mouth-foaming minions to do their legwork on their behalf. Laziness is a colonialist capitalist construct meant to levy the working class against each other. And it fucking worked. Still does. Laws, rules, regulations, and systems have been built around the notion that laziness is an epidemic in need of eradication. Dr. Price has a book about this called Laziness Does Not Exist. I have not read it. I don't know if I ever will get to it because I'm glacially slow at reading books as an adult. But it's out there if you want to read it. Peeling the onion, however, reveals a simpler truth about laziness. It does not exist. Not in the way capitalist bootlickers would like to believe, anyway. There's always a reason behind laziness that explains exactly why a person can't or won't do something. Exhaustion, disability, fatigue, lack of knowledge or means, and others that escape my mind at this very moment. Like, I relate to this so hard, like as a late discovered neurodivergent person who used to just be stuck. I mean, used to be, bitch. This happened to me an hour and a half ago. Being stuck in place, wanting to do the thing. Your brain is chanting for you to do the thing. Just get up and do the thing. Just do the thing. Go do the thing. Go do the thing. It could be anything. Take the trash out. Feed the cat. Go to the bathroom. Like, it's everything. I didn't know what the fuck that was until I learned about executive dysfunction. But even though I know about executive dysfunction, when I'm going through it, when I'm having a moment like that where I just can't do the thing that I want to do, but I don't want to do it at the same time, to an outsider, that looks like I'm just sitting there and just like, because physically I am. I'm just scrolling, doom scrolling, reading the news, you know. But inside I'm going, just get the fuck up! Just do it! Do the thing! So, I still guilt myself into resting, or guilt myself for resting and taking time off. I literally, before the stream, was having like an overload moment where, I mean, I talked it out with Pidge, and of course, talking it out always helps me process it, and he is such an anchor and a rock and a spinal column for me that he helps me see the reality of what it is. He helps me see past the chaotic emotions of the moment that tell me I'm a piece of shit for not wanting to do something because of whatever reason, you know. But laziness does not exist in the way that capitalism wants you to believe. I am of the belief that laziness, instead of being seen as like sloth or like not putting in effort, like I want it to be seen, I would love like if we could collectively reframe that word to mean like what it actually means, like more by the way of leisure, lazing away, just like existing, you know? Just like a lion, just like chilling in the savannah meadow, lazing away, just being, you know what I mean? Resting is a part of self-care and existing, Wabo. Like you said last stream, if you don't take the time to rest and to take care of yourself, then your body and your nervous system will make time for you, bitch. And you will not have a say in when it happens, how it happens, or how long you'll be like this. Yes, that's much more concise. Make time for wellness or be forced to make time for illness. And that's physical, psychological, mental, emotional, all of the above. All right. There is such a disingenuous morality tied to the idea of laziness, as if we're supposed to want to be exploited for our entire lives. These people are terrified of seeing other perspectives that don't center human existence around earning money. They enmesh their identities and personalities with trivial shit that either doesn't matter or is decided completely randomly, like where you were born, what you do for a living, what sports team you like, who you vote for, what you studied in school. Like, I was talking to PJ about this the other day, like, neurotypical society and, like, heteronormative society, cis heteronormative society, Eurocentric normative society, just basically everything that upholds white supremacy and upholds the status quo and the patriarchy. Need you to have all the fucking answers, you know? I think of it a lot. Well, I'm thinking of it right now because we're in the holiday season of, like, the days of yore where I would actually go to family functions and tolerate an evening with my bigoted extended family. Like, ew, I'm too old for that shit. I don't do that anymore. Don't need to. They don't like me and the feeling is mutual. I love my immediate family. I'm making strides with my immediate family. I've seen them 3 times in the past 3 weeks. And before that, I hadn't seen them in over a year. So, like, we've been really reconnecting. They're helping me get my vehicle back running and stuff. And they're not asshole bigots. Both of their children are queer. I am outwardly, vocally autistic and leftist and anti-capitalist. And they don't even so much as look at me sideways for it. Now, I know what they believe as far as politics go to a certain degree. Like, they are old school Republicans. They're not like this amorphous QAnon blob of fuck that the GOP has melted into. They're not anti-mask or anti-vax. Like, they're both old, and they'll say that too, and immunocompromised like me, and understand that vaccines fucking work, and they have a lot of common sense. But being a part of society means you have to have the answers. So going to all these family shindigs where your third Aunt Linda asks you, what do you do for a living, or what are you studying in school, are you getting good grades, or do you have a boyfriend yet, or when you get married, or when you're having babies, or, you know, when you're dating and you are starting to kind of talk to someone and you're talking to a friend about them, and you're like, hey, I think I met someone, and they're like, oh really, what does he do, like, tell me what he does for a living, like, give me the stats, like, give me their Pokemon card. Like, it's so cut and dry. It's so cookie cutter copy paste. And I have never had the answers. Every time someone has asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I physically morph Gumby style into a question mark. I don't even know how to begin to approach that answer. My autistic ass is like, well, physically, I'll probably still be living in the same place. My hair will probably be around the same length. I don't know. Maybe I'll have a new cat. It's like, I think they want you to answer like, where do you see your upward mobility in your job, your career, your occupation in 5 years? Like, fuck off.
This is the holidays, not an interview, Brenda.
Exactly, bitch. Like, we're at Christmas dinner. Didn't realize I was at a job interview for world's best niece. Like, fuck off. But anyway, I just gave myself a light jarring when I shooketh my brain like that. But anyway, people who enmesh our identities with shit that is decided completely randomly. USA! USA! I was born in Minnesota! USA! Cool, bitch. You had no control over that. If you're a cishet white man, you got lucky. Huh. These people spend their time suffering. Willingly. because they believe it builds character, or in the case of white and nationalist Christianity, or any sort of evangelical Christianity in particular, prepares them for the reward of the pearly gate resort in the afterlife. Looking at you evangelicals, none of that shit matters. None of anything matters, actually. And because nothing matters, everything matters. And that's the fucking quandary that I'm always in my brain. When everything matters and everything's too heavy, I have to remind myself, none of this fucking matters. In 1,000 years, absolutely none of this is going to be here. So, relax. You know? That is a quick way to get me out of the moment. To zoom out and look at the futility of existence. I find comfort in that until I don't. But I've talked about it before on this stream. People who come at me sideways for talking about wanting to dismantle capitalism, wanting better for the country that I'm forced to be in and participate in, I often get met with, well, you just don't want to work hard. You're just a lazy fuck. I walk uphill but in the snow with no shoes on both ways, to and from work. I work 83 hours a day. I work through lunch. I work through dinner. Come home, wipe my ass, take a nap, go to my second job. Work 34 hours a day at that job. I make 58 cents an hour. And I do it with a smile. Like I've said before, do you not realize that you are being had? People don't want to realize that all of this shit's pointless because it means that everything they've molded themselves to be and like morphed their life into becoming doesn't benefit them. I'm not saying no one finds joy ever. There's so much joy to be found, and whether you're working or disabled or working and disabled or abled and neurotypical, like there's such joy to be had, but just so a too high of a percent of the quality of our existence is dependent on and contingent upon what we do for a living and how much money we make. You know, the thing that we all made up. Anyway, the futility of existence brings me comfort when my head rattlings get too loud. None of us asked to be born. None of us had control over where or to whom we were born, and yet too many facets of our existence are contingent on these random factors. Money is fake. State and country borders are fake. Government is fake. The stock market is fake. Credit scores are fake. Corporate America is fake. Laws are fake. It's all fake. By fake, of course, I mean we fucking made it up. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And people get that confused when I say money is fake. Oh, well, that's interesting. How do you pay for your groceries? I pay with the fake plastic card that has numbers on it when I log in to my bank account. This fake thing that people put value in because we put value in it. Not because it actually has value. We only give value and credence to it because we collectively agree to play along. It's making all of us miserable, while the Scrooge McDucks call us unreasonable for wanting to be treated like humans. What a fucking joke. It is laughable, but it ain't a bit funny. I've never seen Star Trek. Still haven't. At the time of writing this, I have not started. Don't know if I ever will. But I get told pretty often that what I envision for human society is like Trekkie. Or like, that sounds like Star Trek. Because apparently they live in a post-currency society. And although there are still issues and shit, I don't know. I haven't seen it. People have their needs met to a degree, allegedly. I don't know. Trekkies, drop a fucking line. Let me know. Space communism. Yes, like that's... It's like, can we just get past the whole money thing? If we could just get past the whole money thing and kind of redact the hoarders who are hoarding all of it and just distribute it more evenly. Because literally none of us asked to be here. None of us have control over where or whom we are born to. And people are being punished for those things. People are being murdered for those things. And That seems pointless as fuck to me. Literally. I might start watching it, who knows? I probably won't. I just didn't want the Trekkies to come for me. I don't want to believe that, though. I don't want my urge to ensure people's needs are met to be just a plot of a fictional universe. Just because this is how it's always been doesn't mean it's what's best for us. Look the fuck around. Are you happy with your job, or your living situation, or your financial status? My apartment sucks, and I'm living hand to mouth, but I've created a life for myself where I have peace, and my disability is accommodated for, and my needs are met. And I wouldn't say that I'm thriving materially, but I don't care about that. Like, I'm thriving in my day-to-day existence. My default is peace. And that's like, this is the first time in my life I've ever been able to say that. So that to me is success. Of course, I'm not talking about all the bullshit that's happening in the world. I'm talking about my tiny little corner of it. And like with my family, my chosen family. So, yeah. Why do you feel like you have to accept the lot you were dealt? Why don't you want better for yourself or your loved ones? I'm not accusing you. I was in my feels when I wrote this, okay? Don't be mad at me. I get it. It is smothersome, and it's like panic-inducing to think about. You feel trapped. We need money to survive, you say. And as long as we're all playing along to this fucked game of hell, then sure, I agree. We do need money to survive, because I haven't found a way to survive without it yet. When I do, y'all be the first to know. But grinding ourselves into bone powder for a chance at a roof over our heads and food on the table is not a life. It's barely an existence. And I'm saying this as someone who worked from the age of 14 to 28. And I hit a wall at 200 miles per hour and found out that I was autistic and that I have ADHD. And that explains why my jobs were physically killing me, dude. To the point where I couldn't hold down a meal. I would have convulsing, heaving, sobbing panic attacks in the parking lot at work because I didn't want to go in. I was unable. I couldn't bring myself to go in. That's how to an extent and degrees of severity, that's how every single job I've ever had has ended. And for me personally, that is not an existence. That's not sustainable for me. I physically can't fucking do it. And I'm not a piece of shit for it. And if you're in the same boat, if you're in the same situation, you understand, or you feel that way, you are not a piece of shit. You are not lazy. You're fucking exhausted. And who wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be? Before I was born in the US, people could work part-time at a library and be able to save up to purchase a house. Now, people with PhDs are living in basements and barely able to keep themselves alive. They have to decide whether to buy dinner or keep their lights on. This is the American dream that people my age were sold. I jumped through all the hoops. I was in the workforce for 14 years. I didn't realize I was disabled until my late 20s, and I am no longer able to work publicly. People can't stand that either. The amount of shit I get for voicing that I am unable to work. People are so quick to scan me with their eyeballs. And if I'm not visibly disabled enough for them, then I don't pass their test. And I get called every name you could imagine, none of them fun. Disability is not a vacation or a break. It's not a won't work, it's a can't work. Instead of blaming the individual, you should instead examine the system that discourages disabled people from existing in society. Disabled people still don't have marriage equality. They're not allowed to have more than $2,000 in their bank accounts if they receive Social Security disability insurance, or else they'll be at risk of losing their benefits. If you and your spouse have $2,001, it is within their right to decide whether or not you still receive benefits. Because whoa. 2,000? out of the goodness of our federal hearts, we bestow upon you the gift of, I don't fucking know, $800 a month. And you have the audacity to save up money for an upcoming medical procedure. That sounds too much like thriving to me. You're cut off. I actually think it's $3,000 for married couples, but I recently wrote to my state representatives to vote in favor of expanding that limit. It shouldn't be a limit at all, you know, but don't want to sound too communist to anybody. But they're talking about raising the limit to $10,000 for a single disabled person or $20,000 for a married disabled person that they're allowed to have in assets. This is kind of the vibe tonight. Kind of cathartic bitching about the world, and the TikToks that we're going to be talking about and watching together and discussing are very much this vibe. So bring your cathartic sighs with you, people, okay? Or else they'll be at risk of losing their benefits. But in the eyes of the random financiers that run this insidious shit, they're grifters and fakers. And if they're not faking being disabled, well, maybe they should try not being disabled. I saw a fucking take from a blue check doctor son of a bitch on Twitter the other day. Have chronically ill people thought about or tried just sitting outside? That should help. Cricket, cricket. Blink, blink. That's some John Rich ass thinking if I ever heard it myself. I don't understand why people give disabled people such a hard time for not being able to work or not being able to do something. I think it's multifold. I think they know that they're suffering and they're like, well, what, you don't have to work because you're disabled? Well, what's quote unquote wrong with you? I don't see anything quote unquote wrong with you. I have to go work. Otherwise I can't live. And you don't have to do that? Failing to mention that I can't do that. Well, that's not fair. You must be making it up. You must be wanting a handout. Like, these are the same people that bitch about student loans being canceled, which only happened for a gracious few of us. That does not include me. I don't know how they randomly got decided, but anyway. People think, well, I suffered through it. It's not fair to give someone else a break. What fucked logic is that? If I suffer through something, I want to make sure that no one else suffers through something if I can help it in any way. Fucking people. I know disabled people deserve to thrive, live their dream lives, and have their dream careers. But society discourages and prohibits that. We're barely even an afterthought in terms of accommodations, in terms of ADA. The ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and like the whole reason the FMLA became a thing was because of the Capitol Crawl, which was like an orchestrated movement and protest that happened in the, like, I want to say 90s, like 96. And I only learned about this year. $1990. I only learned about this year because I was interviewed for Cronkite News out in Arizona, along with some prominent disabled advocates and activists in the autistic community, in the Black disabled community. So Hannah, thank you so much for 3 months, bitch.
My money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle wiggle, for sure.
Thank you so much. Woo woo woo. I appreciate you. But I got interviewed, and I wish that I had the name in my head and I don't want to be that person, so I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Listen, you get what you get when you're here, okay? But
When you're here,
when you're here, you're here. I was interviewed in the same article, not like with this person, but featured in this article with one of the people who orchestrated and coordinated the Capitol crawl. So if you go to my beacon, if you want to plug my hub in the chat for me, and you saw where I got it, scrolled about halfway down the page, you'll see interviews and features. This one is from March of this year, I believe. Yes, March 6th, from Cronkite News. I went over this on stream. Whoop. Waba! For 3 months, for 3 months, for 3 months, not for 3. You subscribed for 3 months. Thank you. Twice. Thank you, Waba. Love you so much. Ugh. I'm just trying to find the name of this person. That me. I knew her name was Anita, but I didn't want to say it out loud because I didn't want to be wrong. Anita Cameron. Please find her on Twitter. Follow her on Twitter. She helped coordinate the Capitol crawl, and she participated in it too. And during that movement, over 60 disabled people left behind their mobility aids, and they physically crawled up 83 steps to the Capitol building in order to show and demonstrate how inaccessible American life is for disabled people, and to really hammer home in a visceral, compelling way that disabled people, are entire humans who deserve to have their fucking needs met, not just their basic ones. Disabled people deserve to be more than just an afterthought, you know? So if you want to read more about the Capitol crawl, please, you can do that at your leisure. I'll drop all the stuff in the... Thank you for the bits, Whiskey. I don't have my headphones on, so I don't know what the sound... Oh my god! Oh shit! It's a hype train! Woo! This is, I think, my 4th one. Holy shit! Hannah, Bitch, you dropping that coin. Thank you, baby. Dance party jump scare indeed. I'm putting these back on. And I need another inhaler puff. Choo choo. We're at level 2 too. Let's go. Yeah, there's bonuses going on for the holidays. Twitch do be clever with their timing. Oh, whew. I know y'all won't judge me if I need to catch my breath. Whiskey, so many bitties. Thank you so much for 200 more. What the fuck? Thank you. Baby! Thank you for the 200 biddles. I love you. I love all of you. Now I'm fucking hot. Oh, yes! Whoa! Hephaestus, thank you so much for 500. Then Twitch added 50 to your cheer. Let's go! How awesome. How awesome. How awesome. Thank you guys. Holy shit. This is so long. Thank you, Hannah. Oh my gosh. Hooking everybody up with the end of the year sub By the way, I think I have 3 streams left until my birthday stream. Because my birthday's on Sunday this year, but I'm going to stream Saturday night, of course, on the 23rd, going into my birthday on the 24th. I don't have anything like spectacular planned. We'll see. We'll see what the spoon goddesses provide me, you know? Okay. I know the hype train's going, but I'm just going to keep reading, and if y'all, if the fucking spirit moves you, keep it going, but there's never any pressure, and I appreciate y'all so much. Never pressure. And I don't care if cut me off, like interrupt me, like I don't give a shit, you know what I mean? Okay, my disability is considered invisible, but I have qualms with that term because it's far from invisible to me. Because I neither use a mobility aid nor meet the criteria of an outdated list of symptoms written by and for white men. Then in the eyes of Twitter trolls, I must be faking my disability. I can't get a medical professional to take me seriously. If you know, you know. Yes, Christina, you got hooked up. I'm so glad. Hannah Claus. Hannah Claus is coming to stream. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da. I don't know. Tap number. Ooh, anonymous gifts. 5 subs to the community. Thank you. Did we do it? Level 3 complete. What? Are we level 4 now, bitch? Oh my gosh. We're almost... what level? We're almost level 5. We're at 97% level 4. How is this happening? Y'all!
One does not simply choose to be a potato. You are indoctrinated, like a religion. But once you go potato, there is no return.
What's that name here? Kraken Ocean 33. Thank you so much for the follow. It is the Twitchmas. You joined us on a hype train. I'm glad you're here. Holy shit, y'all. WT fuck. I'm blown away. Thank you all. Y'all are so nice and so sweet and compassionate and giving. Thank you so much. Whew. When I learned that women and minorities weren't required to be included in clinical research until 1993, as I say every single stream, the rampant misogyny and gross misunderstanding of women's health started making a lot more sense. American capitalism does not accept our humanity. If we can't crank out a profit, we're as good as dead. And the rich fucks who uphold the system depend on the willfully ignorant assholes to regurgitate this propaganda and harass those of us who are unable to work for whatever reason. Very much speaking from my disabled perspective here, right? Because have experienced this firsthand. Experience this firsthand all the time. It's almost as if y'all are being exploited too. It's almost as if you're never going to be a fucking millionaire. You don't have to mistreat the people around you, but you do it for fun. You determine your self-worth by your level of productivity. It's not your fault that the system is literally designed this way, but it is your fault for making existence harder for everyone else by being an insufferable chode about it. And this is specifically to the people who give people a hard time for just existing while marginalized, existing while disabled, existing while black, existing while trans, while queer, while insert any and all marginalization here. And you don't even have to be marginalized. People treat people like shit for funsies. It's just, I'm annoyed. It's a lot. I'm making up words at this point. We're all being exploited and abused. Don't make it our fault for seeing it for what it is. I get it. Learning about this shit is infuriating, and it is. In the words of James Baldwin, he said to be aware is to be in a constant state of anger. And my God, that's coming from the perspective of blackness, a perspective I will never experience firsthand or understand. Here we go. Just because learning about this stuff makes you mad and uncomfortable, that doesn't mean that it's not true. And it's a lot to come to terms with. I understand that. But the people who are at terms with it already aren't to blame, you know? And just because you don't experience something firsthand doesn't mean that others aren't suffering. Wolfman, yes. Oh, an anonymous gift. Wow. Yay, we did level 4. Now we're level 5. Let's go. Oh my God, y'all. What the
The
fuck?
money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. I'd like to see you wiggle wiggle, for sure.
Holy shiitake mushrooms. I think we're level 5 now. We are level 5. I think. Am I reading that right? Well, wait. Now that sound worked. Yeah, see if... Oh, no, Waba. I see it, but I don't hear it. Oh! I don't understand why the blurps aren't working. Let me toggle visibility real quick. I mean, like, the links are working. I just don't know why the sound's not coming through. I have changed absolutely nothing.
I bet you it's an issue on Blurp's end.
It must be an issue on Blurp's end. Sorry about that. I know. I would redeem your 1,500 smileys for you if I could. Yeah, keep using them and it'll eventually work, or it won't. You know, I wish I could do something. Hannah sending them beans on behalf of the entirety of England. So many beans. Okay. Believe marginalized communities' experiences. Believe disabled people. Believe black women. Believe the black experience. Period. Believe indigenous communities. Believe immigrants. Believe children. Believe people who have been chewed up and spat out by the unforgiving, churning metal spokes of end-stage capitalism. Your lived experience doesn't invalidate my lived experience. Simultaneous truths can and do exist. I encourage you to expand your minds by learning about nuance, simultaneous truths, contradictory truths, spiderweb linked intersectionalities, and it all starts by believing people, especially those who are most greatly affected by oppressive systems. And basically, it's just, yeah, I'm ranting and raving. It's cool. It's whatever, right? So there's that. My most recent piece that I spat out of my fingers. That's the shit that rattles around in my head 24/7, and identifying the exploitative system for what it is something I'll never be able to unsee. And the more that I notice that people aren't interested in looking at it, the more viscerally upset it makes me, and the louder it makes me at wanting to keep talking about this and keep like deconstructing end-stage capitalism and the hold that it has on all of us, and the fucking shame that it inflicts on me. I'm constantly deconstructing that still. It's not a light switch. It's not something that happens quickly. And it's okay to be mad at the reality of what's happening. It doesn't make you a piece of shit. It doesn't make you a piece of shit for wanting better. It doesn't make it impossible just because it's not happening right now. But I talk about it because it means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to a lot of you too. So that's why I can talk about it. So we are almost done with the hype train. So at the end of the hype train, I'm going to take a BRB. We have about a minute left. Holy shit. This is, I think, the second highest hype train I've ever had. I mean, I've only
This is the highest one.
I've only had 4. Oh, wait, I broke the record?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yay! Well, then never mind. I stand corrected. Holy shit. This is the biggest hype train I've ever had. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it. I never want you to feel pressured, and I feel so like... It just makes me feel warm inside, beyond words, in a way that I really cannot describe. I'm just so grateful. So grateful. Thank you so much. But yeah. After break, we'll cover more things along this line of thinking. We won't cover all the TikToks because I downloaded literally 25. We'll cover a few, as many as time and spoons will allow. But finishing up the hype train here. 5, 4, 3. Bing! Yay! Oh, yes! New emo. Oh my god, it's so fucking cute! 14 subs? Are y'all serious? And 1,250 bits? Let's go! Holy shit. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, I think I had 23 subs when I started streaming. Now I have 37. Thank y'all. Holy shit. I need to stand up and pee and breathe and grab some chocolate. Grab some. Do it, Pidge.
Chocolate?
All right, y'all. Stretch them, drink them, smoke them if you got them. We'll be right back. Oi. We're back like we never left. Welcome back, everyone. I've taken an inhaler puff and I'm realigned. So let's shift on to the latter portion of the evening. So I thank you, Whiskers. Agent Whisker Dangy. Whisker Doodle. That's funny. So, before I took my hit a wall at 100 miles per hour and had to take a break from streaming, I was starting to save TikToks to my phone that I wanted to cover on stream that just like so succinctly articulates in like a condensed, digestible form what we always talk about. So I'm going to spend the next like probably a few streams covering all these because we're not going to get all to all of them tonight. It's already an hour and a half in. Jesus. Not that I'm not loving it, but you know, I'm kind of a long-winded bitch. So I don't have these labeled or anything. I can remember kind of what they're about by the thumbnail, but it's kind of going to be all over the place. But it's going to be covering things like Palestine, like 2024 election, capitalism, American politics, autism. There is one for sure that we're going to be covering, but I'll save that one for last. But let's just see which ones I want to start with. This one was a really good one. And let me turn off my music. Okay.
This video is for...
Give me just a moment. I gotta align it and shit. All right. Okay. Some of these are rather long, but they're also rather good. And I'm using the split screen, so I want to make sure that I'm not covering my chat with half of this window. You know what I mean? Okay, let's go. Let me know how the sound is.
This video is for educational purposes and intended to open a dialogue, not to bully or harass anyone. A lot of Americans have been discussing the upcoming 2020
Atlas, yes.
presidential election, and I'm hearing sentiments very similar to the one I'm going to be sharing with you, and I'd like to share my thoughts on it.
Well, I can see Russia's propaganda's working. Mercy. All of ya. There's so many of ya just falling for it. Problem is, you're coming on my page and you're spewing your ignorance, and it shows. Clearly talking points from Trumpers, MAGA, Putin. Come on. Don't come on my page and spew that nonsense. There is also no third party.
Correct. Without breaking the two-party system, we won't get a chance at a third-party candidate. Which is why demonstrators, organizers, advocates, activists, and abolitionists for generations have been teaching us how to organize and get creative in order to begin this process. And here's a little clip on how that process can start.
How do we kill the Electoral College? Turns out there might be a silver bullet. The only sure way to rid ourselves of the Electoral College forever is to pass a constitutional amendment. That is a worthy long-term goal and something we should all strive for, no question. However, in the short term, there may be another remedy that could effectively neutralize the negative aspects of the Electoral College, making passage of a constitutional amendment even more likely. It's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, NPVIC. First created in 2006, 16 states, including California, New York, and Illinois, plus the District of Columbia, have already signed on. The idea is simple. The states in the compact agree to award all of their electoral votes to whomever wins the national popular vote. But there's a catch. The compact will only take effect once there are enough states to reach 270 electoral votes. Right now, they have 205 electoral votes. They've reached 76% of their goal.
So close.
They only need 65 more electoral votes. This plan is possible because the Constitution leaves it up to the states to decide how they assign electors. Once enough states join the compact, the agreement takes legal force, and it doesn't really matter what the other states do. From that point forward, the winner of the popular vote will win the presidency, as it should be.
Let's keep going.
He said, as it should be. Not this creator, but the creator whom they are stitching starts giving vibes of a creator that I covered a handful of streams ago that was giving us the shamey, waggy finger for not voting for Biden again. You'll see what I mean.
So by not voting for Biden, you're voting for Trump. If you don't vote for anyone, you're voting for Trump. And you will be single-handedly responsible for the demise of our democracy.
The definition of a democracy is governed by the people, a government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involved periodically held free elections.
Yes, this is the TikTok advocate, at the TikTok advocate on TikTok. I need to get into the habit of saying these usernames out loud. Yeah, their content's fucking great.
The Electoral College and gerrymandering to the very voting locations and inaccessibility, the more I research, the less fair our voting seems.
It's true.
Trump will level Gaza. Trump will level Palestine.
Trump doesn't have to be in office for that to become a reality. It's already happening.
He'll give them money and help them do it.
Can we stop? Blue no matter who people, can we stop with the hypotheticals that are already fucking happening right fucking now? And every time I bring that up, they all of a sudden have nothing to say. Or they want to play the shame card, the blame card. Shut the fuck up. Acknowledge the reality that's already unfolding in front of you.
Biden's trying to stop things. Are you paying attention? Are you reading, or are you just hearing all your other friends and mates share and spew the same Russian talking point?
I just smashed my fucking finger. Yeah.
Oh, no, are you okay?
No. Yes, I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
Biden is trying to stop things by sending $100 billion to Israel and facilitating the use of white phosphorus. Yeah. He's really throwing a wrench in the whole operation, isn't he? Jesus Christ, lady.
It's the propaganda.
Biden requested $106 billion for Israel and Ukraine. Of this $1.6 billion foreign aid package, $14.3 billion was requested for Israel. And as we saw, the House only approved this $14.3 billion for Israel. Joe Biden also moves to lift nearly every restriction on Israel's access to U.S. weapons stockpile. It's so
And bitch, this was 3 weeks ago.
important that every person reads this article top to bottom to understand exactly what Biden is wanting to do with this maneuver. The Biden administration's supplemental budget request would further undermine oversight and accountability, even as U.S. support enables an Israeli campaign that has killed thousands of children.
Don't you look up the agreement that Obama signed with Israel?
I love it when someone tells me something new to look up, so thank you for that. Down the rabbit hole we go. In 2016, the Obama administration signed the Memorandum of Understanding, a 10-year commitment to Israel and a $38 billion aid package. This isn't surprising. Most U.S. presidents are in bed with Israel. We're saying we want one that hasn't been or will be in the future. Netanyahu's on record saying he's been friends with Biden for over 40 years, and Biden's on record saying the $3 billion we send annually to Israel is the best $3 billion investment we can make.
So I'm going to repeat that. Biden is on record saying that the $3 billion investment that we annually send to Israel every year is the best $3 billion investment we can make. As people here are dying of COVID, dying of starvation, dying of poverty, dying of houselessness. I'm allowing that. I had to allow that chat because it's true. Uh-oh. Here we go.
I don't know about you, but I can think of quite a few better investments with our tax dollars than committing genocide.
But now you choose this very poignant time to all of a sudden not know, you didn't know about it? You weren't paying attention.
There are a lot of people deconstructing propaganda for the very first time, and for many of them, it's quite literally breaking their brains. Foundational lies told to garner collective consent, so we will remain complicit when atrocities are carried out with our tax dollars. The deconstruction process is painful, but I have never been so hopeful seeing so many begin.
Or you're just young enough where you're new into the voting field, okay? The experience of voting. So why don't you listen to people who have been here for a while?
I couldn't agree more.
All right? No?
I've been listening to the voices of the global majority since long before I could vote, and I've learned about things like mutual aid, restorative justice, and dismantling systems of oppression. And while listening to their stories, I've learned that no matter the administration or the political party, they've been harmed under them all.
What would Putin want the most? For have Trump back in office and for him to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants.
This woman is foaming at the mouth about Putin. Putin, rootin' scootin', tootin' cabootin'. Chill the fuck out. Remove your emotions from the reality of what you're saying. And all you have left are propagandized talking points. These people get upset when people like this brilliant creator talk truth and say, well, actually, Biden is doing this right now. You're saying that you're threatening us with Trump, saying that he will commit these atrocities, that Biden is literally already physically, financially responsible for happening. I don't understand where your fucking disconnect is. I can't understand how else you would be looking at this besides Orange Man bad. Literally zoom out.
Because he will. Trump loves him. Trump owes him money. I mean, I really hope a lot of you will go out there and educate yourselves and do better. You gotta do better. Our lives depend on it. Literally.
If you've made it this far in the video, you can see we have been educating ourselves. And we're learning that not only do we not have to settle for a two-party system anymore, we can break it. I won't just be talking with my state electors about adding themselves to the NPVIC, but rallying my community to do the same, because our voices are louder in numbers. And I will be voting third party come 2024, because there are some solidly viable candidates that are currently running for president. Throughout history, we've seen mountains be moved through creativity and organization. Now is the time to get creative and get organized.
Ow, that hurt my ears at the end. It was like, boom. Well, I'm definitely going to do more personal research on the MPVIC and find ways to easily write my representatives, and I'll keep y'all abreast of the situation. Once I come up with the information and find it, I'll make it easily distributable for y'all. I'll put it in my hub, all of that shit, because we're now, I personally am at the point in my journey of like deconstructing, wanting to dismantle the two-party system, where I'm past the initial shock and rage that we don't have a functioning democracy, and I'm now more in the mind space of, what can I do? Like, I understand what needs to happen, but how do we make that happen? And it starts with voting in your local elections, voting in your state elections, and writing to your representatives. Writing to your representatives. Write to your representatives. And that is such, like, an easy thing to say, but it takes spoons to do that shit. So I'm going to spend the rest of the week specifically learning about MPVIC, finding websites, finding people who can talk about this more succinctly and articulately than I can, and sharing that with y'all. So, oh my God, I know that was a very aggressive closing sound. Very aggressive. That sound was so angry. Okay, I'm going to delete these as I go so I don't cover them twice. All right. Just a sec here. If I don't remember right off the bat why I saved these, it will become clear as I begin to watch them. It's stuff that we talk about, and it's interesting perspectives from different people who have like served in the military and stuff. Okay, this one's just a little over 4 minutes, so not as long as the other one. This is creator. Oh, I'll see when the name is down here. It like moves down here, and I'll be able to read it easier, and I'll let y'all know the username.
Mogbet here. For those who don't know me, I spent 24 years.
Wait, did I turn my captions back on? I did.
Good job. You're way better at that than I am.
Okay. I wonder if the video will pick it up.
In the Army, mostly special operations.
It won't. This video doesn't have captions, y'all. I apologize. It'll be on the VOD, though, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to quit yakking and start the fuck over. Okay? Very sorry.
Mogbet here. For those who don't know me, I spent 24 years in the Army, mostly special operations, at which time I actually was involved in operations that were briefed at the National Command Authority. So that means I was preparing briefings for a 2-star general that would send it to a 4-star general that would go essentially to the Secretary of Defense and maybe on to the President. I know what the fuck I'm talking about. On the 8th of October, I analyzed the attack on Israel, and I had more questions than there were answers for at the time.
Mogvet.93, MOGVET.93 is this user. Yes, thank you, Atlas.
Gotten all the answers. Israel knew about this operation well in advance, as they should have, and they prepared for it in the sense that they wanted to respond in such a way that the brutality would be based on lies, and they would convince the world that babies were being beheaded. Okay.
Now listen, before we continue, I understand this is a random old white dude walking in the woods talking about stuff that sounds ludicrous on its face, but I have another TikTok saved here somewhere, I think. If it's not on here, it's on my phone. There's an article about this where Israel knew about this incoming attack a year in advance and essentially allowed it to happen to justify completing their occupation and forcing out the Palestinian people out of the West Bank down into Egypt and even beyond, and killing who they have to kill in order to do it. This was never about October 7th because they're now expanding past Gaza and they're dropping white phosphorus on Lebanon, and it all boils down to crude resources and Israel's foothold being tied to and adjacent to Western society. Israel and the U.S. are like this. I had no idea. Like, full disclosure, y'all. In terms of world affairs, I'm ignorant as fuck. I am ignorant as fuck. And I had no idea about the history of Israel, the extremely brief history of Israel. I thought that Israel was this ancient land. Like, I thought that it had been here since biblical times because it has such a biblical sounding name. Like, it's just so like, and the way it was always talked about is so like revered and holy, and like, I had no fucking idea how cruelly insidious and painfully exploitative the reality is. And it mirrors exactly how colonialists here in the United States occupied, displaced, murdered indigenous populations. And we forced them onto little plots of land, periodically scattered across the map that are not taken care of. Many of them don't have a police force. Indigenous women go missing in astronomical fucking numbers, and their cases never get taken seriously or never even get addressed. And the parallels are terrifying. They're terrifying.
Got it. Now it's time for phase 2. The United Nations must set up a war crimes tribunal. And the Israeli people must come to grips with the fact that they were lied to by their government, as well as the United States citizens by Joe Biden, who bought off on that bag of crap about 40 babies being beheaded. Israel, you're going to have to turn over your war criminals. And you could start with Netanyahu, who, since the H-dude, has been unequaled in brutality. You're going to have to turn over all of your officers that followed his orders and committed war crimes. There's no excuse for that under the laws of war. What you did to the Palestinian people is a war fucking crime, okay? I know this shit because I lived it for 37 years. Secondly, you're going to have to rebuild Palestine at some point. The world's going to have to rebuild it. All the people that were complicit in the lies, your hands are bloodied. Now you're going to have to send your money to rebuild Gaza. There's no other solution. And then Israel, you're going to have to give the Palestinian people the same rights that your citizens have so that they can move about freely. This is not going to go away. The world is watching. You've got to turn over Netanyahu the minute a war crimes tribunal is established. And if there isn't a war tribunal established, the UN validates itself as a worthless money pit.
Where's the line?
We almost went to war, and it's not even over yet because Joe Biden didn't have the wherewithal to understand that he was getting lies from a foreign country. He bypassed his Secretary of State and his entire intelligence community. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he knew about this all along, but he just figured Americans are fucking stupid.
Americans are in an abusive relationship with propaganda. Americans are emotionally attached to their perspectives, to their beliefs, to their bigotry in a lot of cases. Americans are corralled, conditioned, and compelled to actively vote against their own best interests. So he hit the nail on the head with that shit.
Well, we're not stupid anymore. We now have figured out that all of you people in positions of power are being paid for by AIPAC. That's how you get reelected.
AIPAC is an entire other fucking conversation that is so heavy and spoon sucky, but I do want to cover it in a future stream. This man is absolutely right. This man is absolutely right. Just because he's walking around in the woods not dropping receipts doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is stuff that I've confirmed and have read, and I've been taking in a lot of fucking news from a lot of different sources, and Jesus fucking Christ, it's so much. It's so much. And it sends my mind into a wormhole of fucking despair. It's so easy to slip into despair when thinking about this stuff. But I'm trying to slip into an action mode And that starts with me learning more about the NPVIC, learning more about APAC, and distributing that information to y'all, so y'all can take that information and distribute it to other people in your circle. You know what I mean?
It's a big lie, folks. Don't be part of it. And make sure you let all of your friends and relatives know that this will not stand. And if you have kids that are in the military, understand that they could have been sent to fight for yet another war based on just lies. I've been in 3 of them, and every single one of them was based on lies. I'm pissed off. Free Palestine.
Shit. I'm sorry. It just makes me fucking mad, you know? I'm thinking of George Carlin again. He does this brilliant bit on abortion rights. And, you know, when you're pre-born, you're fine, but when you're preschool, you're fucked. He said that Americans want to raise live babies so they can turn them into dead soldiers. And that is such a... That's hilarious. No, it's always the right time for hydration sensation. Where's the lie, though? That's an extremely short, quick statement. But America's track history of their propaganda and where their money goes, where their money comes from, the interests they serve, the corporations that they're in bed with, it all, the maths. It just maths. Oh man. I hope that gentleman had a nice day today and that he is spreading the word, doing his part as he was there. I appreciate people taking the time to speak from their decades of expertise in a field with intimate knowledge about the inner workings of the government, the inner workings of the military, the inner workings of the chain of command, so to speak. I definitely appreciate people who take the time to do that. Exactly, Sylvia. Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the money to its destination. Follow the money back to its origin as well. Like, follow it from start to finish, you know, or from finish to start, however you got to do it. Figure out where it's coming from. And then all of a sudden, the moves that all of these world superpowers are making makes a lot more fucking sense. Listen, y'all. I hated history in school. I took music history and U.S. history in one semester in college, failed them both, lost my scholarship, had to appeal to get it back. History never sticks to my fucking brain. But all of a sudden, I'm engulfed in this because it's not... We're making history. Like, we're living through history right now. Like, history is just an amalgamation and an accumulation of all of the facts of current events, which is fucking obvious, right? But, like... I take on a whole new interest and a whole new passion for learning about these inner workings as I'm living through it actively. And I've learned more about the reality of U.S. politics in the last 3 years. Well, I'll say since 2016, really. 7 years, 8 years almost, than I have in any history class I've ever taken throughout school. Because as we know, that shit's whitewashed as fuck. That shit is dun 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 dun, we're the heroes as fuck. And it's just so... It's a fucking fairy tale. What standardized learning wants us to think, and wants us to know, wants us to learn, you know? Okay, so... This is a TikTok from last night. So, okay, I'll do 1, 2... These are... It's kind of a two-parter. It's gonna be from the same creator. And then I'm going to do the last one of the night. There's just so many that I want to cover, and you know, I want to kind of keep my spoons in mind. So, and I appreciate y'all being here and me sharing these with you and talking about it. I'm always so excited to read back the chat on the playback. So I love the conversations that y'all have. Y'all take good care of each other as well and lift each other up.
So the role of the Democrats in the current system.
Oop. This TikTok, I saw this last night in bed. I said, whoop, save. And then he references his other video, his previous video, which we'll watch next. And I said, oop, save. This is just so, now this is a long one, okay? That's why I'm kind of, this is going to be some of the last ones we cover, because the last couple are going to be long-ish. But my God, it's just so succinct. So, take it away, brother. This is at Watchful Coyote. Yes, thank you, Atlas. Atlas is on top of it with the users on TikTok. Here we go.
So the role of the Democrats in the current system is to intentionally lose. I hope you'll let me explain, because as we navigate the tricky intersectional ethics of the upcoming 2024 election and beyond, it's important that we begin to understand this in our bones. 50 years ago, the U.S. had two political parties, Republicans and Democrats, and both had genuine public support, and both platforms held some public appeal. And then the right wing realized that there was unimaginable money to be made from corporate campaign funding. So they abandoned their entire platform and dedicated themselves completely to allowing the exploitation of the environment and the working class to give every single penny to the ultra-rich. Paid really well, but there was no way they were going to win elections with that as a platform, because it amounted to a giant middle finger to the working class and their voter base. So they needed to mobilize a new voter base. They looked at a few options and settled on evangelical fundamentalist Christians, who were previously pretty apolitical.
We talk about the grift all the fucking time. The conservative grift, the GOP grift, and how it is intertwined with evangelical Christianity. Because nobody's more emotionally attached to their warped perspectives than an evangelical white Christian nationalist.
In order to buy their votes, the Republican Party turned on a dime in the 1980s and became rabidly pro-life. Before this, the Republicans were openly pro-choice because abortion is a personal right, and they were the party advocating personal rights. This marked the start of the modern culture wars, where the right invents boogeymen to terrify their base into ignoring the fact that their entire platform is basically steal all your money and give it to the rich, while destroying the environment we live in. The Democrats quickly followed suit, starting with Clinton. They also abandoned any actual representation of their base for corporate cash grabs, including massively lucrative arms deals and warmongering, in order to funnel billions through the Pentagon into their corporate funders' pockets. So the only two major political parties in the most powerful country in the history of the world both completely sold out to corporate interests some 30 to 40 years ago, which has led to an ever-widening gap between public opinion and legislation. For example, polling shows that some...
Right? Like, is he on a teleprompter? Like, he has to be reading this because this motherfucker spitting.
70% of Americans have wanted some form of universal health care for decades, but it's barred from even being seriously discussed.
Sorry, run that by me one more time, brother. 70% of Americans have been wanting universal health care for some time now. That's interesting.
Widening gap between public opinion and legislation. For example, polling shows that some 70% of Americans have wanted some form of universal health care for decades, but it's barred from even being seriously discussed. Citizens of the U.S. are shockingly aligned on most major issues. We all want the rich to pay taxes, not to watch our neighbors and families die from easily preventable medical issues, living wages, fair elections, breathable air, and not bombing of babies. Corporations want the exact opposite, or more accurately, they want the record-breaking profits they can extract from the opposite. This creates a real quandary for both Republicans and Democrats alike. How do you continue to get votes while aggressively working against everything your voters want? You already know the answer. They stage a farce where they pretend to be bitter enemies, and like any abuser, they both claim that they are the only ones who can keep you safe from the other.
Vote blue no matter who. I'm talking to you. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God, your ex is named Richard? Well, whether you're nearsighted or not, it's a great comeback. The name Richard is a great name to insert in a comeback. Same with, well, I made up Chadley, so it just covers all of the everyone's. But Richard specifically is just special, you know?
The Republicans pretend that they are the only thing preventing straight white Christians from being hunted for sport by hordes of black and brown trans drug dealers screaming pronouns and making up new genders. The Democrats pretend that they are the only ones who can save you from the coal-guzzling fascists literally storming the Capitol. The fact that one boogeyman is totally fictional and the other is very real doesn't change their tactical exploitation and the presentation of themselves as your only hope at all. And they've gotten really good at this dance. They do a great job at it now. They look genuinely enraged at each other as they denounce the other side of the aisle, while all of them vote unanimously for the same tax cuts for the rich and bloated military budgets.
When I tell you that Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same genocidal capitalist coin, I'm not making it up. I'm not.
For the same tax cuts for the rich and bloated military budgets and genocides that line their funders' pockets. The Republicans have it easy. Their platform of culture war has no relationship to their corporate funders, so when they get into office, they can do most of what they say they will. They'll criminalize abortion, defund social services, cut taxes, but only on the rich, never for you, institute a brutal police state, terrorize immigrants and LGBTQ people. The Democrats have a real problem, though.
I just noticed the dog in the background because it moved. I thought it was a rock. But then his head moved. A rock named Dog and a dog named Rock. Chadley is an actual character. Oh my god. And he's a young savant in Final Fantasy VII, the remake. Young savant intern working from the inside to undermine the world-destroying capitalist company. So in the game, he's the opposite of a real-life Chadley.
I forgot about it. Yeah.
That's so fucking funny. Okay, well, I, Potatum, would like to formally retract my statement. All right, I didn't know Chadley already existed. Thank you, KB. Yes, people. Yes, KB spitting that truth. It is the people versus the corporations who are acting and working through and funding our government, which is corrupt from top to bottom.
So when they get into office, they can do most of what they say they will. They'll criminalize abortion, defund social services, cut taxes, but only on the rich, never for you, institute a brutal police state, terrorize immigrants and LGBTQ people. The Democrats have a real problem, though. Their nominal platform is at odds with their corporate sponsors, so they do the only logical thing from that position. They intentionally lose. Every time they make a catch, win an election, they intentionally fumble the ball. We're all so used to seeing this farcical dance that we can't even really register it anymore, but the Democrats have had the Senate, House, and presidency simultaneously multiple times in the last few decades. At any one of those times, they could have actually made change. They could have codified Roe versus Wade. They could have passed legislation eliminating all student debt. They could have cut military spending, taxed the rich, passed universal health care. They could have capped emissions and maintained a livable environment. Our country and world could be very, very different than it is. It really doesn't have to be like this. But if they did those things, they would then gain massive public support and actually run the country, but they would lose all their corporate funding. So that's not actually what they want. So they keep this incredibly fragile balance, where since the Clinton years, where the Democrats sold out, the balance of power has been carefully maintained at almost exactly 50-50, giving both parties the ability to point the finger and blame the other for not getting anything done. It didn't used to be like that. The party that better represented the will of the population used to just win and then do what the people wanted. Like the 75th Congress, some 90 years ago, was 344 to 88. Because the Democrats, who held the 344, maintained a 95% tax on the rich and actually subsidized social services and education. If today's Democrats simply adopted the platform of their own party from 90 years ago, they would win every election in a landslide.
Period.
But they actively don't want to win. For many of us millennials, this was really driven home by the 2016 election cycle. Polls were crystal clear. In every single poll, Bernie Sanders beat Trump by double digits and Hillary Clinton lost to Trump. The DNC pulled out all the stops. They lied, cheated, stole so much in order to force Sanders out and put Clinton up as the candidate that it was impossible not to see it. It looked insane to many of us. We felt crazy. I remember literally watching them kick Sanders delegates out for asking questions that they didn't want to answer at the Democratic National Convention in Maine. I remember watching them shut down polling places where Sanders had strong leads. All the things that the MAGA thinks happened in the 2020 election, the DNC literally did and didn't even bother to hide in 2016. They were taken to court for it, and they didn't even deny that they rigged the primary. They just said, hey, we're a private company. We're under zero obligation to run fair elections. We can nominate whoever we want. The voting is just a farce.
The text on the screen says, put in game theory terms, their stated win state is different than their actual win state. They win via billions in corporate blood money, even while losing elections and selling the country into fascism. I was 20, 24, turning 25 in 2016. And I was just not fucking paying attention to a lot of shit, like politically. Like, I remember liking Bernie, but after he got pushed out, I was like, well, okay, I guess I'm voting for Hillary because, like, you know, like, it was, like, it, back then it very much was a lesser of two evils thing. And then literally, well, so I thought, you know what I mean? Like, that's what was sold and told to me. And that's very much also the pretense that I operated under in 2020. But I need to revisit 2016. Of course, listen. The past 2 months have really opened my eyes to the reality of this, and it is hard to bear witness to. And I do not fuck with Bernie Sanders in any way, shape, or form anymore. I just don't. And that fucking sucks, and that's hard to come to terms with. But 2016, it was a bit of a different story. It was a different sort of climate-ish back then. You know, all of this bullshit hadn't happened yet. So, like, I'm interested to go back and learn with my current lens and understanding of the reality of bipartisan politics to see how he was literally phased out. He's going to get into that a little more. I'm going to run it back a few seconds here.
Hey, we're a private company. We're under zero obligation to run fair elections. We can nominate whoever we want. The voting is just a farce. That was their legal argument, and they won with it.
Hannah, thank you so much. You ordered some merch. I really appreciate you. Oh my gosh. What'd you get?
That's always the most exciting.
Yes, I'm always so excited to hear about what people got. I don't care if it's a sticker, if it's a hoodie, if it's a mug. I'm always just like super, super appreciative. Anytime y'all spend your hard-earned fake currency that is real until proven otherwise to support me to help put food in my body. You got a hoodie, mug, and a sticker? Oh my gosh, I literally just guessed all three things that you got, like literally. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you to get them. You're going to have to show me if you want. Of course, no pressure. When you get them. Thank you. Thank you.
I remember hearing people scream at the DNC officials, "Do you want to lose?" and slowly understanding that, yeah, that was exactly what they wanted. They would literally rather lose with Clinton than win.
Discord link is still broken. Not broken. I turned it off. It'll be fixed for next stream.
That was their legal argument, and they won with it. I remember hearing people scream at the DNC officials, "Do you want to lose?" and slowly understanding that, yeah, that was exactly what they wanted. They would literally rather lose with Clinton than win with Sanders. Because when they lose, they can then say, "Gosh darn it, we tried, but they won this round. Please donate more."
Oof.
They get to look like the good guys who keep trying but just keep getting beaten down by the forces of fascism and racism and hate. As losers, they're noble victims. But when they win, they have real problems, like what we're seeing now with Biden, where they have to try and hide the fact that they are also the forces of fascism and racism and hate.
More precisely, they are conscious accomplices to the proxies for the forces of corporate fascism and lucrative hate. Period, Watchful Coyote. Period.
If Trump had won, he'd likely be doing the exact same thing, but it would be normal. We'd all expect it, and the DNC would fundraise like crazy. When a Democrat commits genocide, though, we're supposed to see it as atypical. Unflinchingly committing genocide is supposed to read as, oh, a little oopsie from an otherwise ethical humanitarian Democratic leader. The fact that the Republican platform doesn't interfere with their corporate interests and therefore they can enact the policies they promise to, while the Democrats have to constantly appear to fumble and fail in their oh-so-genuine efforts to create change, has, of course, led to the rightward drift of U.S. politics over the last decades, to the point where Republican elected officials are now openly saying out loud that we should kill all Palestinians, while the House just voted near unanimously that anyone who says we should not commit genocide must be anti-Semitic. That shift is noteworthy. If any politician had stood up and publicly said that we should kill all of a given race 50 years ago, they would have rightfully been called a Nazi and lost all public credulity. Today, that's accepted on the floor of a state house, while opposing genocide is condemned and literally censured. That's pretty intense, and it's like that across the board. The only thing that matters in political discourse is controlling the parameters of the narrative. What is outside the bounds on each side? If you control these two bookends, then the content of what is said in between them becomes wholly irrelevant. Both bookends have been steadily shifting to the right for a long time, to the point where now right-wing politicians openly advocate ethnic cleansing, and left-wing politicians just quietly fund ethnic cleansing.
I'll repeat that. The Overton window has shifted so far to the right in these past several decades that the right-wing party is openly calling for ethnic cleansing, while the left-wing party quietly funds it. Quietly approves additional access to weaponry, white phosphorus, tanks and shit. Vote blue no matter who, right? At least he's not Trump.
And anything to the left of funding ethnic cleansing is literally censured. Remember how 100 years ago the Democrats controlled like 80% of Congress and they taxed the rich at 95% in a way that gave the U.S. the strongest economy in the history of the world? Now, if any elected official is crazy enough to suggest that the rich should pay any taxes at all, they're labeled as communists and laughed out of the room. So I paid more taxes than Jeff Bezos last year. The cost of living's through the roof, federal minimum wage is still $7.25, and we're watching our tax dollars bomb babies. But the Democrats, who are currently the ones bombing babies, are our saviors. And if we just vote for them a little bit more, then they'll save us all. Most notable in all of this is that if anyone speaks up who actually represents the will of the American people, they're mocked and driven out of the conversation. So people like Claudia de la Cruz or Cornel West are effectively barred from any presence in the mainstream media, or if they are covered, it's as an anomaly and immediately condemned as stealing votes from the real candidates. Notice that framing. It's not that Biden or Trump are losing through their complete failure to represent anything like what the people want. It's that anyone who represents what the people want is stealing votes from them.
Yes. That's why they are pushing that scold the voter type shit. They are pushing the narrative, and that is being regurgitated onto those of us who actually want to see something besides this antiquated, self-serving two-party system. That a vote for a third-party candidate is stealing a vote from one of the main two candidates, instead of actually holding the parties responsible for putting forth these despicable genocidal maniacs. Like I tweeted, I don't know, today, yesterday, Twitter's a fuck storm. Instead of trying to strong arm people, especially in marginalized communities, for just accepting and forgiving and supporting genocide by voting for Joe Biden, why don't y'all spend that energy strong arming the Democratic Party and vocally, even if you vote for Biden anyway, because it's a year apart, people. It's a year away, election is. Vocally voice your disdain and disapproval for Joe Biden and put the pressure on them to make the change. Threaten them with your vote. The reality of what you do with your vote a year from now, that's whatever, right? But putting the pressure on them now, the more people we can somehow make understand that they're fighting a fight that doesn't serve them. When you say vote blue no matter who, the more people we can get to convince to put the pressure on the Democratic Party to put forth another candidate, or fuck forbid, host a primary, the more likely a Democrat will be to actually win the 2024 election, because it's not looking good right now, people. And it's not the fault of those of us who are seeing America for what it is. Oops.
If you'd like to understand the mechanisms and expressions of this political narrative of control better, I can't recommend Chomsky enough. Since reading his masterwork, Manufacturing Consent, a propaganda model of the media, I have never seen the world the same way. That book is dense, but he covers the same content in a much more digestible fashion in the 1988 CBC Massey lectures titled Necessary Illusions, which is also in print as a book by the same name. But that's a 4-hour lecture set from 35 years ago, and it's worth every second. But don't take my word for it. Just watch and look at the track record.
Before you start commenting about how we have to vote for Biden to avoid fascism, please watch the previous vid, Psst, Democrats, which I'm playing after this. And also consider how continuing to support Democrats is what is leading to the rightward drift towards fascism.
If the Democrats wanted to win, they'd do what 75% of the country wants and stop funding genocide and enact a ceasefire. But they're doing the exact opposite, and it may very well have the effect of putting Trump back into office. As you watch that play out, or whatever the next scenario is where the Democrats fail or look wildly inept, just remember this video and compare what you're seeing to the idea that they want to lose. If they wanted to win, we all know how they could. They're not doing that. So ask yourself what priorities would lead to their actual ineffective course of action, and whether those priorities align with yours, your neighbors, and those of everyone who wants a safe, livable world.
Bruh. Oh my God. And it's always validating as fuck I'm not seeking this information out. Of course, I know that the algorithm on TikTok is curated, but I don't feel like a crazy fucking bitch when I hear other people talk about this shit, you know? Because I see shit for what it is, and I see the patterns, and I'm seeing how history is rhyming and it's repeating itself in different ways, and I feel like this crazy bitch. Right? But Cassandra is not crazy. She was forced with the ability to see patterns and to see things. Well, this is an exaggerated hyperbole. Her example, like, she was forced and cursed to see prophecies of events that were going to come to pass, and she would try to warn people about them, and no one would believe her. And that'll drive a bitch crazy, right? If you've seen Encanto, Bruno is very much the Cassandra of that movie. He's also autistic coded. Okay, let's watch the Democrats, and then we'll be on our last one after this one.
Strategic liberals and Democrats.
Okay, why did the fucking window completely resize itself without my permission? That's super fucking rude. Okay. That's another puppy.
Hey, strategic liberals and Democrats. Did you know that even if you absolutely believe that the ethical move is to vote for Joe Biden, you can still loudly say that you won't unless he stops funding genocide? You can call the White House and tell them that you won't vote for genocide. You can loudly, publicly denounce his horrifying actions to everyone you know. You can even vociferously support someone more ethical in the primaries and then decide how to vote based on the poll numbers as they emerge. I'm just reminding you because this very loud vote blue no matter who movement, beyond having the effect of completely endorsing genocide, is strategically not working to get Biden back into office, so you might want to rethink that position and consider alternatives. And regardless of how you'll actually vote, putting your energy into publicly pressuring him to stop committing genocide, using every tool available to you, including telling him you won't vote for him, has the effect of making it more likely that he'll shift his position to make him more appealing. Unlike the approach of yelling at marginalized people and trying to shame them into supporting someone who's currently buying their families, which just has the effect of making people hate Joe Biden even more and often making them hate you. Not a single person who opposes genocide is going to be convinced to vote for someone committing genocide through sanctimonious shame. But some of them might be convinced to vote for Biden if he actually starts showing ethical leadership and opposing genocide. So if your goal is to make people who oppose genocide vote for Joe Biden, you're much better off pressuring Biden to stop committing genocide and pressuring those people to start supporting genocide. If you really want Joe Biden to be your president next term, the very best strategy you can adopt is publicly opposing Joe Biden and endorsing more ethical candidates as loudly as possible.
Oh my God. Spit. That like, it's so sad and like high-key pathetic to watch Democrats and liberals adopt the same tactics and methods of shaming and bullying, harassing people into voting that the GOP does, that they themselves were denouncing when they saw Republicans doing it and conservatives doing it. Yes, KB, if we can just one time get a third party elected, we could break this entire cycle. And I'll go even further than that. If we could this time, this is such a fucking crucial point in history, like, in modern history, this is the fork in the road. And if we even got a third-party candidate to make a considerable dent in the poll numbers, they don't have to win. I mean, obviously, I would love for them to. I'm also well aware that it probably will not happen, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to push for it and vote for it. Claudia de la Cruz is who I support and endorse. Go watch my stream on YouTube, Potatum with a number 8. I think the video is called If Not Biden, Then Who? We go over Claudia de la Cruz's policies and Karina Garcia, her running mate. I think it's votesocialist2024.com is her website. You can read the policies for yourself and go over it. Of course, while I don't necessarily full chest agree with 105% of what's on that website, I agree with, I don't know, 90, 95 fucking percent of it, like, which is better than the 0 to 5% that I'm feeling about the Democrats, right? How are we going to have more froyo flavor options than viable presidential options? It's the 21st motherfucking century, and even making a dent as a third-party candidate in this two-party election will scare the shit out of Democrats, and that will, I believe, force them to reckon with the fact that they have to actually put in work to bring the Overton window, pull it back Squid Game style, off of the cliff of fascism that it is currently dangling off of, closer to center. Because the representatives we have in our state and national governments, there's no true leftist out there. And that's fucking sad. That's fucking sad. Okay, so thank you, Christina. I brought my teeth with me and my lollipop. I got one more for you for this evening, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank y'all for being here again. Holy shit, we got a hype train tonight. So many sweet faces, sweet friends, sweet, I almost said lovers. I'm going to take another quick BRB just to punch my butt cheeks back to life because they are asleep. And I also forgot to grab some chocolate. And, and then we're going to cover this one last TikTok. So be right back one more time, y'all. Stretch them out. Drink some water. We'll be right back in it. Back. Oh, my butt is asleep. But that's okay. Welcome back, everybody. So, this last one here. Oh my God. Oh my God, indeed. So, I might as well fucking get back on this screen and give y'all the, you know, the lead up to what this is about. Last stream, if you were here for it, you were. If you weren't, you weren't. Not only did I cover talking about Dr. Price in a very incomplete way, still being inflammatory and misunderstanding of the situation, out of respect for that situation and my not needing to be a voice involved in it, I'm not uploading that one to YouTube, and I did take it down. That is one of the only reasons that I took it down, because I spent a good portion of the stream talking about Forrest Van Slyke, and I do not apologize for that. I don't apologize for a word that was said, because all things considered, I kept it pretty light. During that stream, they bombed a bunch of my comments and said that they hate me so much. So I know very much where I stand with them, and there have been some developments on that front. If you're not aware, I know most of you probably are, but they were misrepresenting the work of a Black autistic activist and advocate named Joris Lashane. And it got to the point where Joris himself became involved. And it's my understanding that Hannah is a big part of the reason why Joris got involved. Hannah saw what was happening, saw what was unfolding. Hannah knows the fucking deal. Hannah's been through it in the trenches. Not trying to speak on your behalf. I'm just, you know, giving the people the rundown. Hannah's been in the trenches with this whole situation and calling out bullshit, and saw what was happening and saw that Forrest was talking over and ignoring Black marginalized autistic communities, and reached out to Joris and was like, essentially, so I'm guessing something to the effect of, hi, I don't know if you're aware of this because you're not active on Twitter, but this person is wildly misrepresenting your work and using your name as like a scapegoat and just really doing some shady, like, racist shit on Twitter and in your name, basically, like with your, yes, with your name attached to it, with your endorsement, essentially. And so he was like, okay, wow, I'm sure. And he took several days to catch up on everything, and he made a video response on TikTok. I didn't know Joris Leshane's name or wasn't familiar with his work prior to all of this. Now I'm so glad I am, because he is just chef's kiss brilliant. He's on top of it. And I saw his video about this got posted onto Twitter. One of my mutuals, Moonbay222, shout out, cat supremacist, has been speaking up as a Black autistic person, advocating for their community and not standing for this bullshit. And they posted the video, and I went on Joris's TikTok to watch it. Whew! Joris Leshane has 326,000 followers on TikTok.
You're out here misrepresenting.
Oh my God. So I watched it. My mouth was agape. And it is such a brilliant display of calling someone in with compassion while very professionally portraying the message of keep my name out of your mouth. So without further ado, the final TikTok we will be viewing and enjoying this evening. Joris Leshane goes by Joris
I don't use
Explains
Twitter 'cause
on TikTok. Now, I implore you to go watch this on your own. Let me get back to the right screen, because there's a lot of screenshots that he uses. If you've been familiar with it in real time, you will already have known and been aware of this, but all the receipts are here. This is just brilliant. So I'm just going to let him fucking speak on it, Joris.
I don't use Twitter because it's a cesspool of toxic opinions. So imagine my surprise when someone alerted me that my work was at the center of a Twitter controversy. It was being used by a white author who had published a book about autism advocacy using this cover, and who was comparing their white autistic experience to being black because apparently I'd said it was comparable. They have been consistently using my work and my name to shut down fellow black autistic folks on Twitter, which in turn made me look like I was endorsing anti-blackness. So I've just spent the last 4 days trying to piece together what the hell was going on Twitter and how we got to this point. And oh boy, that's a rabbit hole. But first, let me make one thing very clear. I do not subscribe to call-out culture. If you know who that video is about, do not tag them, do not DM them, do not do anything until you've watched this video to the end. Stick around because I have a job for you. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, that's fine. I'm making this video as a teachable moment to reflect on intersectionality and community work. As for you, who this video is about, this is going to get very uncomfortable. But I'm here to assure you that none of what I'm about to point out has anything to do with you being autistic. It is instead the rather typical behavior of someone who hasn't deconstructed their whiteness, and I will show you why.
Before I continue, I'm just going to open my candies because I don't want my crinkly unwrapping of my chocolates to detract from Joris's brilliant work. All right. Run it back a few seconds. Hello.
Since you said you're committed to doing the work of being anti-racist, this is the work.
Okay.
So this whole thing started by a mistake that I made back in September 2021. I was invited by the Center for Research in Autism and Education to give a webinar in the following year, 2022. That was a very exciting opportunity, but the event was very far away in the future, and they needed a title for my non-existing webinar now, 6 months in advance. I knew I wanted to talk about autism and how the field of psychology was influenced by colonization. So I suggested autism and psychological colonization as a working title, thinking that I would change it when the presentation is ready. But then I completely forgot about it. When I actually got around to creating the presentation, I called it Decolonizing Autism. And as far as I was concerned, that was the name of the webinar. That is, until last week, when I found out that a white creator had taken that term that I created by mistake, under pressure, and that I had completely forgotten about, and had run away with it, putting that term in their book, telling people to shut up and watch my webinar whenever someone would disagree, and giving it a meaning that I would have never endorsed. I have to take responsibility for having created a monster. But by using it to center their white experience, that person kidnapped my monster and put it on steroids. To be clear, I did not coin the term psychological colonization, but the way that it came into my work was my mistake, and the meaning that it took in that context is an accident. So what is the problem with psychological colonization, and especially that interpretation of it? Well, there is no such thing as psychological colonization. There is colonization as it impacts the fields of psychology and psychiatry, and as it affects the way that people are treated, but it's one same pervasive phenomenon. Talking about psychological colonization would imply that colonization can exist in isolation within discrete structures and pockets of society, and would exclusively affect people on the basis of only one aspect of their identity, their neurotype. And that is not how society works. Thanks to intersectionality, we can understand that as a neurodivergent person, you are never just your neurotype. You are also racialized in a certain way. You have an ethnicity, you have a gender expression, you have a socioeconomic status, a sexual orientation, you have a certain body. All of these identities combine and impact the way that capital C colonialism.
Sorry, I need to make sure my captions are back on. Okay, we're good. Sorry, Joris.
The full fat, the original recipe, will give you your own unique set of privileges and disadvantages as you move through the world, everywhere you go, at all times. And that's why I nearly fell off my chair when you, a white person, tweeted that black folks in your comments were needlessly racializing the conversation. That's a huge red flag. Huge red flag. Every conversation has a racial aspect to it. Every word that comes out of your mouth, every sentence that you type is racialized. Because you do not get to leave your race at the door when you walk into any space. That's why, as a white person, using my work, my labor to invalidate statistic people of color who are more marginalized than you, that's appropriation. If you had actually absorbed my webinar without the lens of whiteness, you would have noticed that the very first slide of that webinar was titled TISM, Double Exclusion for People of Color. Right off the gate, I literally opened the webinar with intersectionality by showing how TISM and race combine to disproportionately penalize people who do not look like you.
And the fact that the entirety of Forrest's argument, stance, viewpoint, at least how they portrayed it on Twitter, was from the title of this webinar, which was meant to serve as a working fill-in that was supposed to be like replaced, and it just, didn't get done. The fact that they were hitching their entire argument onto a farce, a falsity, a working title, like a draft, and they were working just exorbitantly hard to completely dismiss the voices of the Black autistic community. My mouth was just on the floor hearing the words come out of Joris's mouth. That's not what he meant. That this is actually what he meant, and also is covered in the very first slide of the presentation. That tells me that viewing the presentation was not absorbed. At least not through anything other than not yet deconstructed whiteness, as Joris says,
Comparing the autistic experience to the black experience as if they were two distinct categories erases the experience of those who are both autistic and black. And it completely ignores that the black autistic experience is vastly different from your white autistic experience, which you present as universal. And that's colonizer thinking. Yes, a lot of my work consists in drawing parallels between different experiences of marginalization. My main shtick is to show how the same mechanisms of oppression and supremacy can be found in every instance of marginalization. However, I certainly never meant to compare the two experiences or even to imply that they were comparable. The narratives and biases that seek to dehumanize both groups are similar, but their consequences are not. And I don't even think that's even a conversation in the Black autistic community. So it certainly wasn't your comparison to make. Not every experience is yours to speak of, and that is white entitlement. As a autistic activist yourself, you must be familiar with the phrase, nothing about us without us, right? Well, here, when it comes to the Black autistic experience, you very much did a about us without us. Even if my webinar vindicated your thesis, which it doesn't, but even if it did, the simple fact that it was the only thing on the entire internet that seemed to back up your thesis against a multitude of voices, especially black and brown autistic folks telling you that it was wrong, that should have given you pause. Like here, for instance. Why would I quote Joyce Lashen if I'm a white supremacist? Well, to my knowledge, quoting me has never immunized anyone from white supremacy. I am not a vaccine. But that also speaks to how much authority you were willing to give me. And I'm flattered, but by constantly citing my name and my work, you're giving me an unhealthy amount of authority in this conversation, a colonial amount of authority. And that's pretty much the opposite of how I want to be involved in conversations. I'm all about collective knowledge production and reject the myth of the lone genius. And that's what made this video quite difficult to make, because I'm forced to use the authority that I never asked for against the very person who gave it to me. And I know that it must feel like a horrible betrayal to you. As an autistic person who experienced rejection-sensitive dysphoria all the time, I hate to have to do this. But at this point, remaining silent would be dangerous. And I'm already beginning to see the backlash to the backlash, steering the conversation on your Twitter in a dangerous direction. Because I can already see some of your followers whispering in your ears that the black people who were offended by your words or your choice of cover for your book were being irrational, aggressive, or uneducated about the history of activism.
I'll say it with my full chest right here. This user up top, block them. Because when I tell you they are a random white Australian woman who speaks over black voices still in Forrest's replies section and is completely strong-arming this conversation into a whitewashed narrative, calling black people uppity, aggressive, abusive, dramatic. For what? For what? At Luscious Lonnie. I found out she was following me on TikTok. She caught a block. She caught a block. I just need to say that with my full chest because I don't think that I posted about it on Twitter. But from the moment I saw her first tweet under some of Forrest's posts where she referred to herself as autistic mama bear and that she's here now. And when someone bullies an autistic kid in my presence, you know, referring to 34-year-old Forrest, like, ma'am, have several seats. Have several seats. If you don't want to block her, that's cool. Don't engage. You will waste your precious spoons and your precious time on this planet, and she is not worth it. I promise you that. I promise you that. What is it with white Australian women thinking they know everything? Looking at you, Tanya Marshall.
And that you shouldn't have caved to their demands by looking for a different book cover. And this is why I'm turning to you, the community, the bystander. If you've made it this far into the video, I'm going to need you to don't fuck it up. If you know who this video is about, and if you are in community with them, then reach out to them with kindness and help them process their mistake if they're open to it.
Joris was thrust upon this situation, you know, very much after the fact. He, you know, understandably is not aware of Forrest's history on Twitter, Forrest's history of deflecting and darvoing and speaking over other people's voices and dismissing other people's experiences and centering their perspective as the perspective. So a lot of us are not in community with them any longer because we have been blocked. I unblocked Forrest. If for nothing else, just to be like, you don't, you don't affect me, you know? But once I saw that their actions were affecting people in my community that I cared about, that's when I stepped in and used my platform to voice my opinion, as I am allowed to do. Got a lot of shit for it. Well, I won't say a lot. I got a little bit of shit for it. And the people who were giving me shit were exclusively white and exclusively not understanding the gravity of the situation. And it's not my place to deconstruct your whiteness for you because I'm white myself. I'm still constantly deconstructing my whiteness, deconstructing my colonialist mindset, deconstructing my internalized racism, having been raised in Southern Appalachia in the 90s and aughts. So if it doesn't make sense to you, watch it again. I can't recommend this video enough. But to this point, I'll say people have tried to reach out to them with kindness, and they don't like that. So I don't know how much community they have left that isn't already a reinforced echo chamber that they have curated for themselves at this point. And the people who they have already harmed are under no obligation to forgive this person. I will say, even though there's 2 minutes left of the video, Forrest has publicly posted an apology, you know, I have my own feelings and thoughts about it. I won't get into them here. I can hope that they will take this experience as a wake-up call of sorts. If hundreds of Black autistic voices online won't do it for them, then maybe Joris Lashane's will. I want to believe that they'll start to look inward into themselves and do the work. I want to believe that of people. I do. But I'm a slut for a pattern, you know? I sniff it out. I seek it out. It's there. It's obvious. Any sort of backlash has in the past been faced with a non-apology and then wait for it to die down, then back on their bullshit. What they posted today was the closest thing to an apology I've ever seen, and that we'll probably ever get. But while I hope that they'll do the work, all I'm going to say is I am not holding my breath. And any work that they do end up doing will be a pleasant surprise to me. As for me personally, that bridge is burned. I'm not interested in being in community with them in specificity or in particular. I'll probably end up blocking them again, so they can't leave hate comments on my shit anymore.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, what the fuck is that? I don't leave hate comments on their shit. I mean, I can't. I'm blocked. But yeah, just wanted to say that.
And if you are not in community with them, leave them alone. Nothing you can do or say will help them grow right now. Use this opportunity to think about what you can learn from this. I started this story by sharing how I effed up. That's for a reason. If you're watching this thinking that you're above all this, then you're doing anti-racism wrong. If you're a Black autistic person, you can skip ahead. I'm not telling you what to do, and you don't owe anyone forgiveness. As for myself, don't worry about me. I wasn't heard, I'm not offended. So please don't demand accountability or an immediate response on my behalf, especially if you are white. I do not trust you to have the experience of community necessary to know what restorative accountability looks like. Certainly not on social media. I'm good. I know it must be frustrating to hear me call for kindness and compassion, but trust me, no one benefits from losing another autistic person to the outright pipeline after a traumatic experience of rejection. No one.
That was a chilling sentence for me to hear and to process. Losing another autistic person to the alt-right pipeline due to a traumatic experience of rejection. Jesus Christ. That's just so soberingly and hauntingly true, and it happens a lot. This is an opportunity to learn and to not go down that road. And it's as simple as decentering yourself. It's as simple as decentering yourself.
Because no matter how wrong they were, that is exactly how they must be feeling right now. And we can all relate to rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Now back to you. There are certain causes that people spend a lifetime fighting alone. Because nobody else will fight for it, nobody else will live what they live, and nobody else will see what they see. But when it comes to your autism advocacy, that is not the case. You are not alone fighting that fight, and it was never meant to be fought alone anyway. In the 3 days that I've just spent watching you tweet my name 15 times a day, I've seen you spend more energy fighting and dismissing the people who should be your natural allies than try to build solidarity in your activism.
Shout out Dr.
If
Toya.
you were more intersectional in your advocacy, you'd be speaking with those who have a different experience of autism than you, not over them. If you were more intersectional in your activism, you would have known, or someone would have told you, that the Black Fist was already a symbol of Black liberation activism. If you were more intersectional in your politics, you would have known that contrary to what you often argue, the social model of disability alone does not represent the entire spectrum of the autistic experience. Listen to the autistic folks who stand at different intersections of marginalization than you do, and listen to those who feel more disabled by their autism than you do. There's nothing wrong with centering your own experience in your work, but when it becomes a problem is when you start pushing other experiences to the side in the process. You and I both know that society loves to believe that us autistic folks have poor social skills. Let's prove them wrong.
Period. Just, I don't know what I was expecting, but what a gem of a human being Joris Lashane is. And I have never followed someone so fast. And I commented on his post right away because it had just been posted. And he actually followed me back on TikTok, which is fucking cool as fuck. And he watched one of my videos and liked it. So, like, what the fuck? It's so cool to be in community with someone who is so compassionate. And that was just a masterclass in calling somebody in. And I do hope that Forrest does the work. I do. And that's all I'm going to say about Forrest Van Slyke. For the foreseeable future, if ever, right? But this whole experience and watching Joris respond so masterfully and compassionately, that's just the word I keep going back to, and me having to take accountability for my own actions in a different way regarding, you know, my post about Dr. Devin Price, all happening at the same time, has really made me reassess how I approach these issues from now on, especially with the platform that I have. There is a responsibility that comes with that. I am a human being, unapologetically so, unabashedly so, authentically so, and that will never change. But that doesn't mean that I can't be more mindful and thoughtful when making these decisions to call people out or call people in. I've seen beautiful examples of that this week, not just in Joris, reading so many thoughts from Black autistic people who I've been able to meet and make connections with during all this and learn from them and learn from their perspective. It's making me take pause and reassess and reprioritize and reconfigure my own mindset on how I approach this shit from now on. Please don't get me wrong. I will always, always, always put sideways trolls to bed who come onto my content and call me names and fucking insult me and harass me and spam troll me, right? Like, that's not who I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people in positions of perceived authority, positions of perceived anything, like advocate, coach, anything like that. I have to be mindful in how I approach this. I have to be considerate of context that I might be missing before I jump the gun. And I have to be mindful of the words that I choose, because I can't control which posts of mine take off and which ones don't. And sometimes, truly and sincerely, I just be saying shit, and it doesn't always behoove me to do that. So I learned some big lessons this week as well. And did I see video? I have not been active in the Discord much at all. I've got to catch up on DMs and whatnot, and in our Tater Town. Pidge, could you pull up the Discord? Not in the chat, but like pull up Discord and pull up an invite link for Tater Town. Just for those who are here with us tonight, and then I'll get that link fixed for next stream. But if you're not in the Discord, please join our Discord. It's a lot more active these days. Atlas, Whiskey, so many of you are just so active in there. And I love catching up on this stuff. Every few days I go in there and read. I'm trying to do better about keeping up in real time, but life is life and spoons are spoons, you know, and notifications give me hives. But yeah, I'll catch up on all that stuff. I will. But yeah, there's the link for those of you who want to join the Discord. So that's all I wanted to cover tonight. I have fucking over a dozen TikToks here still that we'll cover soon. Got some from Imani Barbara in here. Some familiar faces on TikTok, activists I follow. Some good shit. But yeah, that's been tonight's Streamy Weemy. I can't believe we got a hype train. The biggest one yet. Y'all are so amazing. And it feels like I'm back to kind of business as usual with the streams. Taking 3 streams off in a row it makes me feel like I don't know how to how to sit in this chair anymore. Yes, it's almost my birthday week. My birthday's on the 24th, Christmas Eve. Yeah. So I've got Saturday stream, the next Wednesday stream, and then the Saturday after that will be my birthday stream, the 23rd going into the 24th. Don't know what we'll do. Maybe I'll fucking just play some Animal Crossing and just hang out with y'all, and you can help me ring in my birthday. Make a merch channel. Oh, on the Discord? Yes. And there's also a thank you for that, Hannah. For now, there's a Pix in the Discord, like a Pix channel. So you can post it there if you have it in the meantime. But if you want, yeah, well, you literally just said, we'll make a merch channel, and any and all supporters, not just of me, but my good friend K Nova is also working on some merch, which is so fucking exciting. I hope I didn't like give that secret away or tell it out of school. I'm pretty sure they've talked about it like publicly. Yeah, they haven't shared like, yeah, right. They're still working on their designs, but yes. So it won't just be for me. It'll be for any of you who have any merch, any sort of like, if you are an artist, you have a small business, you sell on Etsy, you make stuff, anything like that. But we'll call it merch, just for that. So thank y'all so much for being here tonight. I can't believe I wore my hair down for an entire stream and I didn't melt. If it was curly, it would have been a different story. But, ouch. Oh, my scalp. Thank y'all so much for being here. Lurkers, listeners, now and later. I hope you have a beautiful time zone wherever thou may art. Thank you, Christina. Ding. I'm going to hop off here, and my butt cheeks are still numb as ever. I'm going to hit the vape pen some more and probably play a little Fortnite and pet my cats. I love y'all so much. I'll be back on Saturday. I am recording another podcast episode with T Jamaica Pogue on Saturday. I'm so fucking excited. I love T so much. Could you plug the hub? If you want to listen to my first podcast with T Jamaica Pogue, it's in the hub. It's near the top of the page. You can listen on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Deconstructing Neurodivergence. I will stream Fortnite in a future stream. I might do that Saturday. That might be a good idea for Saturday. It's been a while. I will. Yeah. I do too. This new season is bomb. I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah. That's all, folks. My brain hurts. I gotta go. I'll see y'all on Saturday. Bye.
Can you shut the fuck up?
I love you.